Hello, today's July 19th, 2026, and today I'll be going over my governor election predictions. If you're new to this channel, I have one of the best records on the internet. I've only ever gotten like 2 governor seats wrong and 2 Senate seats wrong in like 6 years as well. And I also got all 50 states right in 2020, so I do pretty well for myself. It'd be cool if you could leave a subscription or come back to this channel every now and then, because if you don't, you will end up not finding it again. Sometimes I get like 3,000 views on a video and then and I get like 3 subscribers off of it, and I never talk to anybody you've ever talked to again. Very little people have left more than one comment, so it'd be nice to get that interaction up, and hopefully, even if you just interact with the video, I'll come back. Even if you don't leave a subscription, just helps me out, and I really crave the interaction, and it's kind of my favorite part about doing this. And honestly, if my suggestion would be to leave a Democratic candidate you want to see me put against Marco Rubio for 2028 in my next video, that'd be a cool thing. Um, so yeah, I already did a take of this video and it was too long. And I know that if people only skip to the end of the video, like in a lot of predictions, I will stop getting suggested to people. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit short and sweet for you guys, but also where I clearly know what I'm doing. So I ended up taking some notes on what I'm going to do instead of just sending like an idiot rambling for 40 minutes. So yeah, Illinois, California, not New York, sorry about that. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, Colorado, and Hawaii are my safe Democratic states for the governor elections. For me, that means 15 points or more. Likely is 7 to 14.9%. Lean is 2 to 6.9%. And tilt is anything under 2%. It just shows how much the state is going to go way better than the normal 1, 5, 10, 15. I don't like the way that people do that. This is a much better way about doing that. And I'm also going to move Minnesota into the safe column as well, as long as as long as Mike Lindell is the presumptive nominee for the Republicans. I don't know when that race is, but I am assuming his Donald Trump endorsement will push him up there. And he's honestly down like 20, I think like 25 points to Klobuchar. So yeah, probably gonna lose by like 17 or 18. And Klobuchar also outperforms Minnesota Democrats by like 10 points statewide, like all the time. So on top of that, on top of a blue year, on top of Mike Lindell, would not be surprised if she won by honestly 30 points. She probably will only win by like 18 though, even if Mike Lindell runs against her. For Republicans, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Vermont. I made an old video where I accidentally did not include Vermont in the safe Republican category because it is Vermont, and my brain thought it was safe Democratic. And honestly, I think that that is a reasonable mess up. It's like, but sometimes, like I say, I ramble in these videos without my notes sometimes, which I'm starting to see this. It's already helping me, but when I ramble for a while, I already sound like an idiot because sometimes I say stupid things because I'm unscripted here usually, and well, I still am unscripted. I have like one sentence for every state, and I people were being really harsh about the Vermont mistake, and I'm like, that's not that deep, but okay. Let's get into the likely states though. I'm gonna put for the likely I'm gonna put Texas in here. The only reason I don't know how to say the name for the Democratic, I think it's Hinojosa. Don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm just gonna say Abbott is gonna lose instead of the Democrats gonna win. I'm gonna say Abbott is probably gonna lose here by. I expect the Democrat here to do better than people expect. People expect like a double digit to like 12-point race. I think it's going to be closer to 7. I think Talarico is going to drag this Democrat kicking and screaming to single digit loss, but definitely not a win. I've only seen like one poll where it's like, oh, maybe they could like pull a crazy upset, but and it's Abbott. Republicans always outperform in the Texas polls, almost always. I expect them to win. I expect Abbott to win here by a pretty comfortable margin. I expect it to be called by 10 p.m. absolutely on election night. Even assuming everything goes right for Democrats up until election day. And honestly, they are not really putting that much money into the governor race here. They don't expect that they could actually win this race. It would be a game changer if they won the governor race because most governors in any state that's a single digit race will like if any either a competitive state or like a safe state, you're probably going to win your reelection no matter what. Almost every governor in the entire country has a high approval rating or a positive approval rating at the very least. Um, so yeah, a Democrat somehow pulling off an upset in Texas would be massive for the indication of the state's future, but I doubt it. And Abbott's pretty popular. He will win here. I'm gonna also say South Carolina is a likely Republican state here. Same with New Hampshire and Florida. The other one that I'm going to talk about, Byron Donalds. I do think he's going to be the nominee. He will probably prevail against James Fitchback, who's kind of skyrocketing a little bit. He's releasing internal polls that show him in a competitive race in the primary that is being held on August 18th. I do not expect James Fitchback to end up pulling that off. However, I do think he'd have a better win than Byron Donalds, and I mostly say that because James Fishback is one of the worst possible candidates you could put up to a statewide race. But it is Florida, and that guy is a maniac, so he would get all the vote turnout that he would need to win that state comfortably by 10 points or more. And then the I forgot the name of the candidate that they're going against. I apologize, I didn't write that down. Um, but I know I believe they are actually up by a few points in a lot of the polls against Byron Donalds, and against Fishback they're losing. So it'd be funny if Republicans ended up losing a massively, like, a really important governor's seat. Um, it'd be really funny if they ended up losing here because they chose Byron Donalds over James Fishback. The Trump endorsed one is Byron Donalds, by the way, so that'd be funny. And to quote Donald Trump, he's one of the good ones, which is I remember hearing that live and I was like tweaking, and I'm like, is anyone gonna care this time? Yeah, no, I think I still think Byron Donalds is gonna end up winning by 7 or 8 points here. 8.3 would be my guess, even though his opponent is technically winning in the polls. I don't expect Florida to go for the Democrats for decades, but we'll see. Some polls show the Senate and the governor race being kind of close, and if it was ever going to go to the Democrats again, this would kind of be the year. And do we have any other states for Republicans? No, I don't. For the Democrats, I'm going to give them New York. Hochul won here in 2022 by, I believe, 6.4% after taking over for Cuomo after he resigned. She ended up not having a good start and then almost losing the state to I believe it was Zeldin, who was a pretty popular Republican at the time. So, I mean, am I shocked that it was closer than it was supposed to be? No, but I am pretty shocked about it being a single digit race. And I do think that if you look at New York City's trends, you will see massive shifts in every election, every presidential election towards the Republican Party, and you're going to see that in a lot of states, big cities like Chicago, which shifted to the right a lot in 2024 and between 2016 and 2020. Same with Detroit and Michigan. Same with Philadelphia by a lot. Basically every election since 2008, Philadelphia shifted by like 10 points each time minimum. Republicans, I don't know if they're maxing out anywhere anymore, in any of these Rust Belt states, but it looks like they haven't improved anywhere other than like big cities, and obviously that's the main place you need to win. Um, but they've kind of capped out their wins in every other county. So if Democrats are starting to take that back, you could see what I'm about to show you in the Rust Belt, and that is because the next state I have is Pennsylvania. I have Shapiro winning here by 12 points. He's up by even more in the polls, sometimes by over 20. I do expect it to obviously narrow up towards the election. Republicans are going to vote Republican like they usually do. Democrats are going to vote Democrat like they usually do. It's really going to come down to independents who absolutely love Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, just had dinner with the Clintons in New York. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but he's obviously running for president, and he will 100% be running at the debates and everything. He will be one of the top contenders. I'm kind of nervous about that as a progressive Democrat. I think that is a horrible idea to run Josh Shapiro because he will not get the young voters that he thinks he can. It's going to be a big whole entire thing. But for Pennsylvania, I guess he would probably win Pennsylvania. I don't know. I can't really give you anything else other than that. Um, and for Michigan, I'm going to say for Michigan, it's also going to be a likely state for the Democrats. I don't think that there's anything like weird about that. They're up here comfortably. It is also the governor's seat, which is not as close as the Senate or presidential seats historically. Democrats you outperform on the governor's seat. Can't remember the last time they had a Democratic uh, the last time they had a Republican governor, I meant. It has probably been at least but I mean before Whitmer, so I mean it's been a while. But Whitmer is term limited; she's not running again, and I forgot the name of the Democrat running here, but they are up by like a lot by like double digits. I do expect it to be closer, more like between 6 and 9 points. I'm just gonna say 9.2 on election night. I think that would be my personal prediction. And the next likely state, I'm gonna say New Mexico. No comments about that. Maine, not really any comments about that. Um, they're up here comfortably. They're actually up here safe as of the most recent poll, but I don't think, again, a lot of these states are going to narrow up closer to election day. We still have another 3.5 months to go. We got like 100 more days to election day. And for the Republicans, I have for lean anyway. I guess we'll get into the lean now. I'm gonna give them Alaska. Tom Begich is running against. I don't know if they're a no name, but they're a national no name in Bernadette Wilson. I don't know how popular they are in Alaska, but it seems like nobody likes either of these candidates. But Begich has been trying to win a statewide race here for a long time. He cannot seem to do it, but he is the only other Democrat other than Peltola that I know from here. So I have to imagine he might be an okay candidate. He was winning here pretty comfortably a while ago, but it's narrowed up pretty quickly when more candidates started rolling in. And when you see go head to head, I believe he's down a couple points, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up winning. But Alaska is one of those states that typically ends up narrowing up towards the Republicans a lot by election day, closer to the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it is a mostly by registration wise, it is an independent state, majority wise anyway. And yeah, that's I do think that the Senate race the Senate race is way more likely to go blue because Peltola is much more liked in Alaska. But I think you're gonna see like midterms. I don't expect high turnout in these midterms, and I think that if you want to win in Alaska, that they're not putting nearly enough money in, by the way. They're putting more money into seats that they're holding. They're putting John Ossoff has like $100 million on hand right now, more than any other state. And I believe the only other candidate that they're trying to flip is in Texas. So I guess Democrats must be pretty confident in other Senate seats anyway, that they think they could just win. They could win Texas and Ohio on top of Maine and North Carolina. They don't seem to really care about Alaska or Iowa. I mean, Iowa's pretty smart. They're not going to win Iowa, despite what the polls say. But I think they should be putting more money in. Turek is actually the only the Democrat in Iowa. He's the only Democrat uh, that's in a competitive race that's getting outraised by his opponent. So that's something to note. Is that um, Democrats are funneling way more money to the governor race in Iowa as well, because not a lot of money, not even $10 million, but I believe by a couple million. Rob Sand is outperforming his opponent here. Um, he's also the current expected favorite, but I will get to that race. The next lean I'm going to do is Kansas. I expect it to be around 6 points. I really have nothing on this. Cindy Holscher is trying to replace. I forgot her name. I forgot the name in the first take of the video. However, I ended up remembering it by the end of the video, like quickly. So I'm kind of mad that I don't remember it now because I was kind of hoping the same thing would happen again. But I'm just gonna skip Kansas. We have no data in Kansas. There's no reason to expect a win for either a Democrat or a Republican here. The only reason I say Republican is because it's a Republican state, um, and they're both well-known people here in these states. I have heard of Ty Masterson more than Holscher, but I know about both of them. And by the way, it's a pretty close primary, it seems like, so she could end up losing to one other guy. He had like a funny little name. Ooh, yeah. So I didn't know how to. I think it was like Skoog. I think it was Skoog. So, but it was a just no comment on that. I don't know why I'm talking about that right now. For Democrats, I'm gonna say Oregon is a lean state. Oregon, I say that because again, it's gonna be just like 2022. It's Kotek versus Drazan. Drazan was up by a couple points a couple months before the election, and it ended up being a relatively comfortable win for Kotek. I believe she won by around 4 or 5 points. And even though she was supposed to lose, I gave it a tilted Democratic characterization um, going into that election night, and I almost gave it red. I think I made it as a real time decision, but Oregon I think is going to be more blue than the 2022 characterization. I believe Oregon's going to go more blue than in 2022. I mean, by the way, that's what I meant to say. Kotek actually has a way higher approval rating than she did in favorability rating than she did in 2022. But Oregon's one of those states where Republicans are like, oh, look, they trashed the whole state, and then they can't really like tell you why, other than like, they just don't like it. Kind of like California, where I can take what you say about Oregon or California and multiply it by 10 in any of these safe red states. Um, but yeah, I the next I'm gonna do is Arizona as a lean governor spot, because Hobbs actually has a pretty high approval rating here, despite the fact it kind of shifted to the right by way more than you'd think in 2024. Like there was a massive shift in Arizona to the right in 2024. I don't expect that to be resemblant of any actual important shift taking Arizona back away. I expect independents to keep growing around the country, as we're seeing in registrations countrywide, and I expect Maricopa to go to Hobbs. That's kind of the main. Any candidate who wins Maricopa County wins Arizona. That's basically the whole thing. I mean, almost the entire Maricopa County is like all five major cities in Arizona, besides like two of them. So I mean, it's kind of like obviously, who wins that county is probably going to win, but it's whatever. Arizona, pretty pretty safe to bet on it going blue. Um, and she's also up by way more than 4 points. How I have her winning, I have her winning by 4.3. That's what I'm gonna say right now. And she's up by like 10 points right now. They don't know who her opponent is gonna be yet, but yeah, I expect it to be like that. In Georgia, you got Keisha Lance Bottom, first person to run for governor for the Democrats since 2014, and first person running in Georgia as a toss-up race for the governor race, that isn't Stacey Abrams in probably decades. I think that Georgia will probably go for Bottoms here by around 3 points. She's running completely off of Ossoff's momentum, but I don't think there's a problem with that. She's very lucky to have a lot of Democratic momentum in a state that is one of the only states that will 100% flip in 2028. I would put over $1,000 on Georgia flipping right now if it had good odds in 2028. Georgia is one of the only states where I could dig deep into it and show you exactly why. Obviously trends reverse, but you're gonna see how even in 2024, Georgia, where it's important, Georgia still shifted to the left in 2024. I think that is super interesting to see. Harris's performance in 2024 in Georgia speaks volumes about the state's future. And the fact that Ossoff and Warnock were able to replicate Biden's win in Georgia and do it by way more, like 3 times now, and now Ossoff has $100 million, a ton of momentum, and now he's up like double digits, and just demolishing his opponent nationally. And then he's gonna go and crush him in the debate like he always does. Ossoff's one of the most well-spoken people in the entirety of Congress since I've been alive. That guy is very well-spoken. He's very well liked. I don't see him as a presidential candidate. He's denied to run for presidency. If I was going to pick a quote unquote establishment or I'm just going to say moderate for him. If I was going to pick a moderate Democrat to run for president, Ossoff would absolutely be my first choice. I love that guy. I've been saying that on the channel as soon as Harris ended. I'm like, I either want. This is before I went too woke for the Democrats. I said I wanted Harris or Ossoff or AOC. And now it's basically just we need a progressive to run, and that's kind of the only thing that I see Democrats being able to pull off a comfortable win. And if they run an establishment or a moderate Democrat, I think it's going to be a bad decision. Kind of getting long here. So Wisconsin, I have as a lean state for Francesca Hong. She's a 37-year-old Democratic socialist, exactly the kind of person you need to be running. And if she can pull this off alongside Abdul Al Sayed, I believe that is the right way to say it now. I think I said it the wrong way one time in the last video, and I'm like, I don't know if that's right, so I didn't say his name. I'm gonna roll with it and be confident that Sayed is the right. Al Sayed is the way to say it. If Sayed and Francesca Hong both pull Wisconsin and Michigan, progressive Democrats win in in Rust Belt states, that is going to be so clear that Democrats need to make the progressive change that young voters have been wanting to come out for. And it is so important. It is so important that we see these races results, and we see how they compare to Harris and how in 2022 with Ron Johnson, Mandela Barnes, who's running for governor, lost by like 4 to Ron Johnson, who is like the scum of the earth. Like moderate Democrats are just not popular. People do not want to vote for them. Like if you're an independent, are you gonna vote for the one? Are you gonna like? I'm not gonna get any more deep into this because I'm trying to keep my time down. But Francesca Hung will be a super interesting race. She's going against Tom Tiffany, who is also pretty well known in Wisconsin. But she is up pretty comfortably, and she's up more than any other candidate here. Another guy just re-entered the race in Wisconsin, but I don't expect him to win. I do expect Hong to win. Um, not if she doesn't win, this becomes scary. She could it could actually flip. But I'm not gonna make the same mistake I did in 2022 and give Wisconsin the red characterization. I know I say I mention all my mistakes, but like I said, I make pretty little mistakes usually, and I feel like I'm making it sound like I'm worse than I am. The next 3 states, I'm gonna go by them quick. Iowa, I don't expect Rob Sand to keep up with his momentum. I expect the race to narrow up and for him to narrowly lose. He doesn't have that much money on hand. I just don't think he has the momentum to hold on for 3.5 months. However, if he does, if his opponent goes and they debate and his opponent still sucks and Rob Sand is still highly favorable, he could win by up to 5 points. He's not winning by more than 5. He's not winning by the 8. It does sound like Republicans really aren't putting any money into this race, though. And I noticed that when the first polls came out, because it sounds like Republicans are abandoning Iowa and kind of giving up, and Democrats are not giving up. They're just not putting a ton of money into it. So we'll kind of see. That speaks volumes to how bad the Republican internals are, which is super important because Biden's internals in 2024 had him losing New Jersey and barely winning New York. So, and I think losing Illinois as well. So that's like wild how hated he was among Democrats and how long it took him to try and salvage that race. And I think that internals are generally trash. But if your own internals show you losing, just imagine what the final result is. And I'm gonna make that tilt though. Sorry about that. Nevada, I'm gonna do tilt. It's a highly approved of governor in a red trending state. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if Democrats won here one or a couple more times before it ends up being a red state. But as of right now, Nevada staying red and Georgia flipping blue are like my two takes that I don't think should be controversial for 2028. Those are my two main takes for 2028. Despite whatever environment we're in 2028. I think that those two will definitely happen, at least as of right now, unless something wild happens. Also, something funny. Lombardo was gonna get a ticket, but then he's like, "I'm the governor," and then the police officer like, "Oh yeah, have a good day." That must be really bad for his campaign. I can just imagine that they acting like that when you get a ticket is insane. Why not just take the $50 5-minute ticket? You're a millionaire. Just take the ticket. And honestly, it looks way worse for his campaign. And I think that alone, I don't know how much of a deal it's being made of in Nevada, but I think that alone is enough to cost a lot of Democrats their races. So we'll see. But that standard's never held up to Republicans. And for Democrats, sorry, but I have Amy Acton losing to Vivek Ramaswamy in Ohio, and Amy Acton is up by like 3 or 4 points on average, I'd say. I don't expect this to hold up. It was the same thing with Tim Ryan. I expect the same thing to happen to Sherrod Brown and Amy Acton in 2026. It is a different environment than in 2026. Um, but I just expect Republicans to just bite the bullet and be like, yeah, fine, we'll vote for Ramaswamy. But they're probably going to primary him. They do not like Ramaswamy. I don't know why they voted for him in the first place. I don't understand. He said things that were controversial for Republicans anyway. And it's like, oh, Christianity shouldn't be the national language, or like equal rights are good. And then they're like, oh, we hate this guy. So that's kind of how it went. And it's the same thing with Byron Donalds. Is the only reason Byron Donalds isn't winning his Trump endorsement and Ramaswamy isn't winning his Trump endorsement, either of them, it's because they're brown. It's the Republican Party. That's the only reason. But yeah, again, for time constraints, I'm just gonna reiterate: be super cool if you guys stayed and subscribed. I expect all these to change a lot considering how many close races we have. We usually don't have many toss-ups going in midterms, maybe like 5, but there's like 5 here, that would probably change by election day. I'm so curious to see what you guys think. Please leave a comment below. Talk to me about it. I like the interaction. I love it. Would be nice if you guys came back. Because really no one ever really comes back, and I just get a new cycle of like 2,000 viewers every time my videos pop off. And I'll leave a comment on with both of my channels, and in the comments I'll leave one from the other one in the videos, because I published the same video on both channels. So I'm trying to change over to the odds maker. But again, none of my subscribers ever really come back because they don't have notifications, and they rarely are on election YouTube. So, you know, something to note. Be cool if you had notifications on too. You guys have a great day.